Hello, everybody! Howdy. I'm back, and other introductory noises. Yeah, I apologize for being gone for, what, 6 months, roughly? Lots of stuff happened, and I got busy and stuff. But I'm back. I feel like I need to come back, so I'm doing this. I'm actually doing something different than what I usually do, as you can probably tell. Part of the reason I was gone was that my video editing program broke, actually, so I have a new one, which comes with a screen recorder, which is why you're watching me draw right now, in sped up speed. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, this is going to be kind of an unedited ramble, because this video editing program, while it's pretty sweet at recording screens and then speeding up the footage, it's also kind of crap at editing audio. Because I can't, when the video is sped up like this, I can't really go in and figure out where the audio syncs up to what, so it's just gonna be a ramble. So I apologize if you hear, like, my family wandering around and smacking doors shut in the background, or, like, occasionally I'll move my shoulder and it will go snap, crackle, pop. Rice Krispies. Yeah, I kind of apologize for that, but yeah. So, I had an idea, like, 2 nights ago, listening to a video about... It must have been a video about the Hierophant, because I just, in the midst of listening to the video, had this idea pop into my head. It was just sort of a thumbnail sketch. Or, well, it was a silhouette kind of thing. It was a full image in my head, but I basically made a note, aka a thumbnail sketch, in one of my little notebooks, and, I don't know, it turned into the Hierophant. So I guess I'm making a tarot deck now? I don't know. I'm not sure how far this rabbit hole is going to go, so I guess we'll see. But for now, the only 2 that I really know that I really want to draw. I've got a couple of tarot cards in my head that I really want to draw. One of them is the Hierophant, which is now done, and you're watching me do the thing. And the other one is the Empress, for reasons. Yeah, I feel like these 2 are the most, the Hierophant and the Empress and the way that they appeared in my brain are probably the most different from the usual depictions of the Hierophant and the Empress. I've definitely seen the Hierophant depicted as a shaman before. I can't remember which deck or whatever. I'm thinking the Wildwood. I can't remember what it was in the Wildwood. Actually, I think in the Wildwood it's the Ancestor, isn't it? And it's got the deer person with a drum. So I may have been pulling on that a little bit in my brain. Here I am sketching in the yurt in the background. Yeah, so this, so one of the things that I've been studying and interested in for a while is, Mongolian shamanism. Tuvan shamanism, I suppose is the proper. So, Tuvan and Buryat? I don't know how to pronounce the word, but, this Hierophant shaman dude's outfit is vaguely inspired by by Buryat shamans, and Tuvan shamans to a lesser extent. Mainly, the color blue, as we will see, and you probably saw in the thumbnail. That's gonna play a big part in this card. I was contemplating for a while making it red, making his robes and whatnot red. Simply because the robes on the Hierophant card in the Rider-Waite Tarot and most tarot decks that I've seen are red. And then I was like, no, you know what? No, we're doing blue, because blue is, in my mind anyway, the shamany color, so so he's gonna be blue. Dabba-dee-dabba-die. I was resisting, oh well. Look at me flipping the canvas like a pro, I don't know. I've been at this for 10 years. So, yeah, I had the intention when I started recording this that I was going to talk about, like, my artistic choices and whatnot, but, like, my artistic choices and some symbolism stuff. And I might, but so far it has just been a big ol' ramble, which I suppose is okay, because I think I'm going to title this Art and Ramble. So, yeah. I know a lot of people have issues with the Hierophant card. Because I think it's usually because it's very organized religion and, you know, masculine power in a spiritual sense. And inherently I see nothing wrong with masculine spiritual power because, I mean, I don't know, I work with that kind of energy a lot. So, the Hierophant has always been kind of a comforting card to me, which, make of that what you will. I didn't start working with the Rider-Waite tarot until like a few years ago, so I didn't really have, like, the view of the Hierophant in my head was not that Hierophant. It wasn't the Pope image thing. It was always just a symbolic in my brain, and kind of the older man who is spiritually aware and helpful. I think that's the way it was first described to me when I was little, and very interested in tarot because we had a couple of tarot books in the house. Fun fact, my mother used to do tarot. I'm not sure why, she has since become the type that would not, I think. But yeah, and I guess at that age, the only two older men in my life were my dad and my sensei. I used to be an adventurer like you. No, I used to be in karate. I used to be a practicing karate, a martial artist, studying Kempo, American Kempo. I did get a black belt, by the way, but that's not where this is going. So I guess the Hierophant in my brain has always sort of been associated with my dad and Sensei Denning rather than organized religious like priest figures, because I never really grew up in or with a Christian background. I mean, obviously I was exposed to it because school and differing thoughts and whatnot. But it was never as big a thing in my life as it was for probably a lot of people. Especially probably a lot of people where I live. I have the great fortune of having two parents who are from East Coast. They're from Maine, and both of them are very open-minded as far as like spirituality and, well, one of them is. One of them is a kind of a militant atheist, and then there's my dad, who is about one step removed from being a pagan, like a practicing pagan. So, you know. So yeah, I never really had the Hierophant as Pope image in my mind in any significant way until I started working with the Rider-Waite, which I kind of felt like I needed to do because it's probably the most well-known deck, and, you know, I kind of felt obligated in a way. So yeah, I now own a Rider-Waite. I don't ever really use it for reading. Fun fact, those of you who have been on my channel for a while may remember the I made a deck video, and it was the Oracle deck with all of my book characters and whatnot. I don't use that one for readings either. Like, it's a nice deck to have for working with archetypes. I've got the Bard up on my desk easel right at the moment. The Bard is Esper, and I love the way the deck came out. I love the art. Obviously, because it's my art and I'm a little bit biased. I mean, that said, you can have really unbiased opinions of your own art, I suppose. On the one hand, I love my art, and on the other hand, I'm my own worst critic, so yeah, there's that. That's what I was trying to say, and it didn't work, but yeah, the The Five Realms Oracle is really, really nice for visualizing archetypes and whatnot, and since I'm connected with the characters, I can kind of suss out what they might mean if they come up in a reading, but I wouldn't use it for somebody else, and I barely use it for myself, and I don't know how I would even possibly write a guidebook for this, even though I tried at some point. Yeah. It's So yeah, this deck didn't really work out as well as I'd hoped, but it was a good experiment and it has taught me a lot, and I guess if this, whatever I'm working on now, ends up being a full-fledged 78 card deck, then whoa. I don't know what I'll do with that, but I feel like this is gonna be good. I feel like this is gonna be good. If nothing else, I'll have a very interesting Hierophant? I don't ever know how to pronounce that. Whatever I've been pronouncing it as, that's what I'm going to just go with for the rest of the video. Yeah. Like I said, this is gonna be a ramble. Real ramble. Cause I mean, I've been gone for so long. In YouTube terms, I've been gone for practically forever. So, I have a list of videos that I want to make that are actual videos and not me drawing and rambling at the same time. But I haven't had the wherewithal to make them, simply because I don't know, I feel like if I'm going to bring up any of those topics, I need to really do my research and really do them justice. And I feel like I need to ease in before I put both feet back into the pond, so to speak. The other reason that I haven't made a video in so long is that I've got another YouTube channel that's doing pretty well. It's not witchy related at all. It isn't. Otherwise I would have maybe posted a link. I probably won't because I just don't like to cross-contaminate things. Yeah. It's actually Skyrim related. So yeah, I've basically got a gaming channel that I'm running at the same time. So there's busy things everywhere. I also got kind of swamped with art and writing conventions, which I'm a lot more confident as a writer now that I've had a piece of writing get all the way through a slush pile reading with only one hand raised. And it was because I forgot to not use the word mumble about 15 million times. Oh, that was a rookie mistake, and as he pointed it out, I was like, oh no! I would have caught that given a run-through edit, but I didn't, because my dad and I were asked to write for the slush pile because they only had like 2 submissions, and that was not enough for an entire panel worth of slush pile, so yeah. Okay, enough about me, let's talk about the card. Yeah, I'm assuming you guys came here to listen to me talk about the card and not myself. Or maybe you came here just to watch me draw, or maybe you came here to hate watch, I don't know. I don't know what your intentions are. I'm not gonna pretend to know. I'm just gonna imagine. Right, so the Hierophant has always been classically depicted as kind of a religious figure, a male religious figure of some description. Mostly. I mean, in the Rider-Waite, he's basically like a cardinal or a pope or something. I think the Italian versions list the Hierophant as the pope rather than the Hierophant. Hierophant, by the way, I learned this yesterday, comes from a Greek word that means revealer of secrets. So I find a shaman with like the fringe over his eyes, I find that highly appropriate. And yeah, this image just sort of squished its way into my mind, and I had to draw it, and here we are. Yeah. The other times that I've tried to do a tarot deck, I've tried to do it with the characters that I know, the characters that I write. But that has never really worked out, and I think it's because the characters that I write aren't archetypes, they're characters. And in order to make a proper tarot deck, you kind of have to have archetypes rather than characters. I don't know, maybe that's just the way that my brain works. Yeah, enjoy my rather derpy coloring process. I've been doing this digital art thing for going on 10 years now, and I'm still probably doing some badness as far as professionally arting goes. And you know what? I don't care, because it works for me. Right. Hierophant. So, revealer of secrets. A shaman, I guess. And I knew that this was the Hierophant as soon as it popped into my head. Like, there was no question in my mind. I didn't question anything about it. Like, oh, why is this the Hierophant rather than the magician? Why is the shaman not the magician? And, I don't know, it felt more like, I mean, the big antler hat headdress thing, one could liken that to the crown in the Rider-Waite Hierophant card. The drum beater being an antler also, it kind of, there are 3 antlers like the 3 crosses on the Hierophant's staff in the Rider-Waite. Yeah, I too have a little bit of a thing against the classical depiction of the Hierophant, so I guess this is my way of saying, screw you, Rider-Waite, I go my own way. And that way involves antlers and drums. I did keep the 2 students, I guess, in the foreground of the picture. But rather than being kind of, I guess, apprentices or some description, they're kind of just kids who might be listening to this shaman, like, tell a story or relay messages from the spirits and the ancestors, that kind of thing. There's a lot in this card that intuitively makes sense to me that I don't really know how to explain. And I'm doing my best, but I have a feeling that I've lost a few people along the way. I'm trying to think of what else to talk about, because, I mean, it's one thing to make art for a tarot card. It's another thing entirely. I must have gotten distracted in a few places here looking at videos. Yeah. Blame it on my ASD, baby. I can't like stay focused on one thing at a time if there are like 7 things that are equally interesting. Anyway, and I do get very interested in all sorts of things. Right. Where was I? There's a difference between drawing a tarot card and actually knowing what any of the things that you drew means. And I like to think of myself as pretty good with symbolism. I took an art history class, so I guess you could call me a classically trained art historian, even though I didn't like major in it or anything. I just took a class. I actually took 3. 2 in college and 1 in high school, and by far I preferred the one in high school because the teacher actually gave a crap about what he was talking about and wasn't just there for, I don't know. He wasn't just there for the Renaissance. He was there for all the things, and that I appreciated. Art history is how I realized that I have a massive, like, a love in my soul for migration art, which is the twisty Nordic animal style that a lot of people think of when they think of Norse art, I guess. What do people usually think of when they think of Norse art? I don't know, because in my brain it just immediately goes to migration art. So, that. Right. I also feel like there's a lot of things that make sense to me because I know what they mean or what they're supposed to mean in particular contexts, but I'm not sure how much I need to explain. That whole sentence, I don't think that made any sense whatsoever, but there it is. It's just gonna be there. Okay. The reason, let's point this out. For those unfamiliar with I'm thinking in particular of Tuvan shamanism, and I might be completely way off here, but one of the reasons, or the reason, I suppose, why the tassels in front of the face, I mean, first of all, it helps. What am I trying to say here? It helps to flip the shaman's mind into seeing other places rather than seeing here. 'Cause I don't know, it's symbolic in a whole bunch of different ways, and it does weird things with your brain to have light filtering through a bunch of things like that. Just waving your fingers in front of your eyes can sort of give you a hint as to what that's like. I am actually doing it right now while I'm speaking, but I've stopped. Just anyway. And the other thing is that I can't remember where I read this, but I read somewhere that it's actually considered rude to look at a shaman while he or she is channeling something. Look at a shaman specifically in the eyes while he or she is channeling something. Not entirely sure why that's considered rude, but or unlucky. It might be some kind of taboo. I am kind of an idiot gringo. I don't really know what I'm talking about here, but I assume, this is probably a poor assumption on my part, but I assume that since this is kind of supposed to be, it's inspired by Tuvan and Buryat outfits and shamanism, but this whole deck has kind of a fantasy-ish feel. At least I think it's going to be having kind of a fantasy-ish feel. So I'm going to assume that given the fantasy elements, it's gonna be okay. I've done my best. I've done as much research on this as I can outside of working on this card. So, yeah. I'm doing my best, guys. If I'm accidentally offensive or appropriative, then I deeply, deeply apologize. I'm trying to be appreciative and not appropriative, and I know that there's sometimes a fine line there, but again, this is, and it'll be more obvious with probably the rest of the deck, but this is supposed to be more fantasy and more, kind of all sorts of different places and time periods, so it's more symbolic and speculative, I suppose, and archetypical than actual or realistic. I really hope any of that made sense. It just kind of, I don't know. What else to talk about? Here's a thing that I don't know. I don't know why I put red tassels in. I think I did that to give a little bit of a throwback to the Rider-Waite Hierophant card. I did keep the color schemes of the two students, by the way. Yeah, just don't mind me drawing a fire backwards. And by backwards, I mean the yellow part's supposed to be on the bottom. I do fix that eventually. Drawing fire is a lot harder than it looks, and it looks hard, but it's hard, okay? Yeah, drawing fire is not easy. It really isn't. I'm a character artist, and yeah, natural things don't come easily to me, which is gonna be fun. Oh, that's the other card that I'm looking excitedly towards drawing. My brain kind of failed with English there, but the Lovers is another one that's very different than most depictions of the Lovers. I'm not sure what the Lovers looks like in the Wild Unknown Tarot, and just the fact that I've said that might give someone a clue as to what I'm thinking for that card, but yeah, I think I've got my cards sorted out in my brain up to roughly the strength card, depending on which place you put it at, 11 or 8. Is that right? That might not be right. I don't know. Fun fact, I'm very bad at tarot off the top of my head. If I'm reading, I'm alright. I'm an alright reader. I can get objective for pretty much everybody except myself. And even then I can be objective with myself, unless I'm super emotionally attached to whatever I'm reading, in which case, it doesn't work. But yeah, the Hierophant, whatever this thing is. The fire in the foreground, I kind of had that there as more of a light source than anything. The original image of this card in my head was of these two students and the shaman, like, inside a yurt or a tent or something, rather than outside of it. But I think obviously, I like the outside better, because then you have the two mountains in the background and the sky, and it's a little bit more natural, rather than the big stone pillars in the Rider-Waite Hierophant card. Excuse me while I pop my knuckles there on accident. Right, the fire. So originally in my brain, that fire was kind of like something you'd have inside, and that eventually made no sense to me, because why would you have a fire inside of a place? Obviously to keep it warm, but I don't know. Modern yurts usually have like wood stoves in them, as far as I've been able to tell. I don't know where I got that idea from, the image of a yurt with a wood stove in it. That's, like, obviously that's pretty modern, if that's a thing. I research all sorts of things, and then I get them all confused in my head, and I don't really know which one is which off the top of my head. If I had actually researched what I wanted, or made notes about what I wanted to say, this probably wouldn't be as much of an ungodly ramble, but here we are. I had to get back into doing videos somehow, okay? Bear with me. What else can I talk about? Oh, I'm still trying to talk about the fire and failing miserably. So, yeah, originally it was sort of just there as a light source, and then I realized that it symbolizes the light of knowledge? Is that a thing? It's like the fiery passion that people get for learning when they're really dedicated to a topic, I suppose. Maybe that's just me. That might just be me. I tend to get really, really passionate about stuff that I really, really want to learn about, so the fires of learning, I guess. So yeah, the drum. I have this thing in my head where, I don't know where it came from, but wherever there's a shaman, there's a drum. That phrase has been stuck in the back of my head for, like, years now. Not many years, but years. So, yeah, shaman with a drum. And an antler beater. Fun fact. The antler drum beater was actually not inspired by any particular, steppe nomad thing, or Tuvan, or Buryat, or anything. It was actually inspired by the band Heilung. Yeah, one of the, somebody who is on the same forum as me, that I know from my other channel, he posted a link to a Heilung video, and I watched it and just sort of, I fell in love with the stage performance, the artistry of the antler mic stands. Like, I think that was that and the headdress, the big antler headdress on the lead singer lady person, were the things that caught me the most, and the makeup. Fun fact, I kind of have a thing for makeup. I don't usually wear it, but I do like looking at well done stage makeup. So, what was I talking about? Right, they have antler drum beaters, and it's the coolest thing I think I've ever seen, so I wanted to give a little nod to that in this. I don't know what any of their stances as a band are, whatever, so I don't know if that's a problematic thing to like or think about or whatever. I'm just here for the art, okay? I'm just here for the art. Oh boy. So, I also don't know what that little disky thingy is, but given the general placement and the kind of gold color, I suppose it could be symbolic of, I suppose it could be symbolic of, like, inner knowing, or, I suppose, the divine in the shaman? The patterns on the headbands and the hat, those were purposeful. Those were, like, the third eye, obviously. Well, somewhat obviously to me anyway. The third eye, and then the arrows, the chevrons kind of going down toward it, channeling the channeling messages from places that people can't usually hear into consensus reality. Well, more or less. Whatever the consensus reality is for the setting in this card. Oh my god, talking about art is so hard, guys. It really is. But I think this is something that I want to continue doing on this channel, actually, is talking about art, showing you guys the process, and also rambling about it at the same time. Because art is something that's, like, partially spiritual to me. Maybe I see it as the other way around in that my witchy stuff tends to be more artistic than actively witchy, if that makes any sense. I've been struggling to come up with ideas for stuff to talk about, because a lot of what I do doesn't have very many performative aspects, so I wouldn't know how to describe it. That said, the other thing that I could do is be very creative and come up with other ways to do things that I do, which I want to do that, because that just sounds fun. Like, how many different ways can you make a protection charm? That just sounds fun to talk about, okay? That just sounds fun. But art, like digital art and, well, to a lesser extent, music and dance and stuff. Art is one of my major outlets and one of my main ways of honoring the divine, I guess? Whatever you want. The divine, the universe, the crazy, unlikely fact that evolution brought us to this rather bizarre point in time and space. I was watching a whole bunch of dinosaur documentaries while working on this card, by the way, so my brain is kind of 250 million years in the past. Thinking about all this. You know what? I think I just had an idea for the death card. Come on! See, this is how my brain works. I have ideas upon ideas upon ideas upon ideas upon ideas. And I guess you could call it, you could say something like I've got a really dedicated muse or something. I don't know what any of this is. It just happens. My brain just takes things, makes connections, and says, hey, yeah, you should draw this now. Even when I'm trying to work on something else. It's obnoxious, but it's something. Okay, so we're on the last minute of this video. One thing I do want to point out is that I don't know what the final cards are going to look like. I just kind of slapped this into the layout and put a quick title on the bottom with not really much of an idea of what font I want to use or anything like that. So if you have any ideas on what you want, what you think this tarot deck should look like, if it should be a tarot deck, if you're interested in that kind of thing, leave me a comment, or several, depending. I'm back. I suppose I'm working on being back. I'm working on not being as much of a hermit, because I definitely turned into more of a hermit than usual. Okay, yeah, I think this video is winding up, so I hope you all enjoyed. I hope it wasn't too rambly. I hope I didn't offend anybody by drawing a shaman, even though it's a culture I'm not necessarily part of, and I'll see you next time.
Bye, guys!